Chapter 2. You can't take all that, said Mom, gesturing at the 5-packed suitcase by Dad's bed on the morning of our holidays. I need it all, stated Dad. All my glooming products are in there. And the Vector 60 sun cream. They wouldn't let you onto the plane with at all, said Mom. There's a legend, always. Remember, I said so on the ticket. Said Dad. I still doesn't see why we have to go on the plane. We can't go onto the flying vampire taxi. But we've won 3 planes fight, said Mom. And it'll be fun to have the full human holidays experience. Said Dad again, but he opened his suitcase and began to take things out, huffing and puffing the whole time. You don't need much beach holiday, said Mom, patting her small, nasty, packed handbag. All I'm taking in my swimming costumes, some sunglasses, and a flower crown. When Dad has finished condensing his 5 suitcases in one, we left the house and drove to the airport. I had never been to the airport before. Then I felt butterflies of excitement fluttering my tummy as we neared a looming metal building. A monstrosity, chortled Mom. Through her a fence of the car park, I could see planes. Some weren't moving, and others were just taking off or coming to the land. I hadn't realized quite how big they would be real life. Wow, I said, staring up at the sky with my mouth open. Quite something, said Dad, stared up at me. They do look slick and swish, don't they? Maybe I'm quite excited about going to the plane after all. We hurried into the airport, and to the desk and to the lady warming a lot of lipsticks, looking at the passports and wished our suitcase. You can't through the suitcase now, she said as her suitcase disappeared onto the conveyor belt. That way, please. Then she pointed towards the sign that said Gate 23. Where's my suitcase going? Said Dad, sounding worried. Will I get it back? Of course, smiled the lady. You said it again to the other end. We followed the lady direction and walked towards the other conveyor belt. We had to put on our luggage onto then walked through the metal detector. This is a load of faff and nonsense, said Dad. Just fly the sky. He walked through the metal detector, but he kept loudly. You have to go into the motor run, you sir, asked friendly-looking man wearing an airport uniform. Jolly isn't a belt? Of course I'm wearing a belt, said Dad. My best belt for traveling. He opened his cape and revealed a wide belt with a big silver buckle onto the front of it. Around a small items, a pair of nail scissors, an emergency swing kit, a penknife, a tub of hair gel, a bottle of red juice, a behind full and some earplugs. It's for everything I need for a fight, I said. We vampires use this all the time for long-distance flying. I'm afraid the rules are a bit different on the plan, said the scary guide, and he took away from the penknife and red juice, the swimming knife, swim kit, and the scissors. Dad stared baffled. I don't understand human travel at all, he said. We got through the rest of the security and come out into the big waiting area that had lots of shops in it. While we waited for our flights, Mom gave Honey Blossom her pink milk, and I followed Dad into the shops. Aftershaves, exclaimed Dad, and set about spraying himself with a sort of different scents from a tester bottle. I joined in too, admiring all the pretty perfumes and giving them a sniff. Suddenly there was an announcement with a loudspeaker. Flight number 2834 in the boarding now, it said. Please go to the gate 23. That's us, said Dad excitedly. The plane seemed enormous up close. It made loud humming sound as we stepped into the board. The lady wearing shiny high heels peered our portly pass. Welcome, she said. You sit over here. She pointed at the row of the seats halfway down onto the plane. I ran over to squeeze it, sitting by the little oval-shaped window with Pink Rabbit on my lap that he could see out. We could see a man down below, loading all the suitcases into the plane. Once everyone was sitting up and down, the lady with a high heel stood up and waved her arms about, telling us we're at the exit for the case of the emergency. I noticed that Dad started to tap his foot into the floor nervously. It's okay, Dad, I said. The plane is actually one of the safest way to travel. Miss Cherry told me. Really? Said Dad. He stopped tapping and looked a bit happier. Then something rumbled underneath us and started to move. I watched out of the window over a long stretch of the runway. We began to speed up, zooming faster until suddenly we weren't up into the ground anymore. We are lifting up onto the air. I stared and wonder under the ground were farther and farther away, and the building, the cars below turned into tiny little dots. We broke through the clouds, and I realized that I had never been so high up before. The clouds looked like soft, fluffy blankets from above, and I wish I could leap onto the plane to go up, bounce them down. Gosh, said Mom, we are high. I've never flown above the clouds before. Isn't it beautiful? I stared out of the window until it got too bright. Then I opened my backpack and got out my coloring book. And I I fitted down into a little table in front of me and began to color. A lady came round until they asked me wanted to drinks. Red juice for me, thank you, said Dad, and was pleased when the lady handed him a glass of tomato juice. I'm glad to see that there are any cute vampires here, he said. It felt very nice to be sitting there next to Mom and Dad, high above the clouds in my coloring book, apple juice and pink rabbit. I spent a happy hour coloring in, and when I had finished, I put my book back on my back and poked Dad. Are we nearly there? I asked. Nearly, he said. Only another 2 hours to go. 2 hours? I said. That's ages. Honey Blossom started to grizzle and 2 hours went by very slowly. I played the game of the not guessed and crossed with Mom and looked onto the Invites magazine with Dad. And then at least a voice came over to the loudspeaker to tell us to put our seatbelts back on because we were about to land. I watched out the window as we went back down through the clouds and towards the blue sparkling sea and white sandy beaches below. Look, I said, Mom, Dad, it's the sea. Then I felt a big bump as the wheels onto the plane hit the tarmac onto the runway. And in front of us stood another airport gleaming silver onto the bright sunshine. Right, said Mom once we were off the plane and had got our suitcase back. Time to find a taxi. We made our on the airport and into the bright sunshine outside. My eyes, cried Dad, delivering into his suitcase and his sunglasses and pointed back to Brazil. It was very hot outside, hotter than I had ever felt before. Wow, I said, stepping into the shade of Dad's umbrella. I am half vampire after all. Mom opened her arms and closed her eyes, putting the face on the sky. Gorgeous, she said. I do so love the sunshines. Summer fairies are like flowers, you know. Quick, said Dad as suitcase began to pour down his face. Let's go into the taxi. We stepped out in the arms and Helen went onto the. We all bowled in. Immediately, Dad got out into the factor 16 sun creams and began to slather it on. You too, Isadora, he said. It's our only protections. The taxi moved off and I looked at the window and the surroundings. The buildings will look different from the houses and home, and there was a palm trees all along into the side of the roads. How lovely! Exclaimed Mom. The taxi stopped outside into the large hotel in front of the beach. Here we are, said Mom. Dad leaped out into the security, up into the steps onto the hotel to stand the shade onto the doorway. It was much cooler inside onto the hotel. There was a big reception desk onto the side of our curriculum rooms. There was marble floor. A nice man helped out into the carried the suitcase upstairs and showed us our rooms. This is very nice, said Mom, and he looked at the view. I can't look any of the bright things, said Dad, lying down onto the bed and putting his head onto his forehead. My poor vampire eyes need to rest. Can we go to the beach? I asked, jumping up and down. Please, please, please. I ran to open my suitcase and began to pull in my swimming costumes. Look, I said, I'm ready. All right, Mom laughed. We go to the beach and Dad can stay here for a rest. Dad peered out one eye from behind his head. I might go to the spa, he said weakly.